Step onto a dusty Texas stage in the early 1980s, and you might glimpse a scrawny teenage boy poised in front of a mirror backstage, guitar slung over his shoulder. He's wearing makeup inspired by Kiss's Ace Frehley, ignoring the noise of the room because he's busy perfecting poses and dreaming of the day he'll truly become a rock god. That kid was Darrell Lance Abbott, later known to the world as Dimebag Darrell, and he was on the verge of forging some of the heaviest riffs in metal history, only to have his life end in one of music's most shocking tragedies. It's a story that begins in Grand Prairie, Texas, in August 1966, at a house humming with guitars and country music. Darrell's father, Jerry Abbott, was a country producer who filled the home with instruments and gear, while his mother, Carolyn, encouraged music. Darrell had an older brother, Vinnie Paul Abbott, born in 1964, and from the start, these two were inseparable. You'd find them jamming on toy guitars and banging pots in the kitchen. At first, Darrell was obsessed with playing drums, but Vinnie was so gifted at percussion that it overshadowed him. Eventually, Vinnie banned Darrell from the drum kit, so Darrell pivoted to guitar, a twist of fate that changed metal forever. When Darrell was 12, his parents gifted him a Les Paul-style Hondo guitar and a pig-nose amplifier on his birthday. For a kid who just lost the drum kit to his brother, that combination felt like someone handing him the keys to the kingdom. He practiced relentlessly. Stories say he'd stand before the mirror with that Hondo, slathering on face paint, perfecting rock star stances, and channeling all the flamboyance of Kiss or Van Halen. The family soon discovered that while Vinnie was a wizard on drums, Darrell had an almost preternatural gift for the fretboard. The siblings jammed for hours, once losing themselves for 6 hours straight, playing Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water, mesmerizing each other with their synergy. The synergy blossomed in 1981 when they both were invited to join a new local rock band. The condition was that the group only wanted Vinnie at first, but Vinnie insisted they also bring his guitar whiz kid brother, and that's how Pantera was born. People often forget that early Pantera was a glam metal band, full of spandex, teased hair, and flamboyant stage get-ups. Darrell, who initially called himself Diamond Darrell, happily embraced the look. He worshipped Kiss, Van Halen, Judas Priest, any band that reveled in showy guitar riffs and big theatrics. At 14, he entered local guitar battles at clubs like the Agora Ballroom in Dallas. He won them so effortlessly that organizers soon begged him to stop competing and just judge because no one else had a chance. The audience would gawk at how this skinny teen pulled off complex solos, reminiscent of Eddie Van Halen's Eruption. The unstoppable Diamond Darrell was becoming a legend before he even turned 16. By that age, in 1983, Darrell played guitar on Pantera's debut album, Metal Magic. The band was still deep in the glam metal phase, wearing mascara and singing about partying. Darrell's father, Jerry, owned a studio called Pantego Sound, so the band recorded cheaply there. Even if the music was derivative, Darrell's solos popped like fireworks. Local press singled him out, praising his frantic, melodic style. Meanwhile, behind the flamboyance, Darrell loved partying, but he also carried an innocence that stood in stark contrast to the typical boozed-up rock star. Instead of chasing groupies, he spent downtime practicing or hanging with his longtime sweetheart, Rita Haney, whom he met as a kid in the same neighborhood. That closeness grounded him. The real drama was brewing over Pantera's identity crisis. Half the band wanted to remain glam, while Darrell and Vinnie craved heavier territory. By the late 80s, that glam sound felt outdated, overshadowed by thrash metal from Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth. Pantera's singer, Terry Glaze, refused to go heavier, while Darrell wanted to up the aggression. The tension broke in 1986 with Glaze leaving and the band recruiting Phil Anselmo, an intense frontman with raw, powerful vocals. Pantera now had the missing ingredient to transform from a forgettable hair metal act into a blistering groove metal monster. Around this time, Darrell caught the eye of Dave Mustaine, who offered him a gig in Megadeth. Darrell was interested, but only if Vinny could join too. Megadeth already had a drummer, so the deal fell through. Loyalty to his brother trumped any allure of a bigger band. This sealed Pantera's lineup as Darrell on guitar, Vinny on drums, Rex Brown on bass, and Phil on vocals. In 1990, they unleashed Cowboys from Hell, widely recognized as the birth of their groove metal style. Darrell's thick chugging riffs layered with squealing harmonics gave the songs an unmistakable character. He was no longer Diamond Darrell. He'd rebranded to Dimebag Darrell, a nod to the vow never to carry more than a dime bag of weed to avoid serious legal trouble. The album soared among metal fans, catapulting Pantera to a new level. Dimebag's flamboyant guitar squeals, combined with a punishing sense of groove, turned heads across the scene. He still had hair-dyed vibrant colors and a weird, comedic persona, but the music was lethal. They toured relentlessly, forging a reputation as one of the most ferocious live acts in heavy music. Dimebag's tone was unbelievably heavy yet crisp, punching the crowd in the gut. Over the next few albums, Vulgar Display of Power, 1992, and Far Beyond Driven, 1994, Pantera cranked the aggression even higher, fueled by Dimebag's unstoppable creativity. Vulgar Display is widely considered a metal masterpiece. Rolling Stone ranked it number 10 on their 100 greatest metal albums, praising Dimebag's serrated rhythms and how he single-handedly redefined metal guitar for the 90s. Meanwhile, the band's internal life was a swirl of heavy touring and heavy partying. Phil Anselmo, battling chronic back pain, turned to heroin. Dimebag stuck primarily to whiskey and weed, but the environment was chaotic. During the Far Beyond Driven sessions, they actually recorded in different cities. By the Great Southern Trendkill, 1996, the rift between Phil and the Abbott brothers, Dime and Vinny, was enormous. Phil recorded vocals in New Orleans, the rest tracked in Texas. Dimebag felt that unity was crumbling and the band was fracturing from the inside. Pantera parted ways after their final album, Reinventing the Steel, 2000. Official statements were murky, blaming scheduling conflicts, but the real reason was the toxic dynamic. They never officially said, "We broke up," but effectively, Pantera ended. The once unstoppable metal quartet was dust. Dimebag and Vinny believed they had no choice but to move on, forming a new band called Damage Plan. They recruited vocalist Patrick Lachman and bassist Bob Zilla. This group carried on the heavy style with the album Newfound Power, 2004, but it lacked the brand recognition of Pantera. Meanwhile, fans still wanted a Pantera reunion. The drama escalated with Pantera's ex-singer Phil Anselmo making heated public statements about Dimebag, going so far as to say Darrell deserves to be beaten severely. Tension soared, leaving Dimebag frustrated. He insisted he'd tried to mend fences with Phil but found no path forward. So Damage Plan became his main musical outlet. Damage Plan embarked on a tour to support their debut, but a sense of foreboding clung to them. On one occasion in Cincinnati, a crazed fan, Nathan Gale, jumped on stage, causing thousands in damages. The band let him go, not suspecting that a couple months later, he'd do something far more horrific. On December 8th, 2004, coincidentally the 24th anniversary of John Lennon's murder, Damage Plan played a gig at Alrosa Villa in Columbus, Ohio. The show started around 10:15 p.m., but 5 minutes in, Gale rushed the stage with a 9mm Beretta. Some fans thought it was just a fan about to stage dive, but he opened fire, shooting Dimebag multiple times in the head and body. In the confusion, many assumed it was fireworks, but as the music cut, the horror was evident. Gale turned the gun on others, killing 3 more people before a police officer arrived and shot Gale dead. The entire event lasted mere minutes. Dimebag was 38. The metal community reeled. Such violence on stage felt unimaginable. A nurse in the crowd tried CPR on Dimebag, repeating, "Come on, man, stay with me." But he was gone. The next week saw an outpouring of grief from fans, fellow musicians, even big rock legends. Eddie Van Halen offered his own iconic Bumblebee guitar to be buried alongside Dimebag, stating, "Dime was an original. Only an original deserves the original." The funeral became a massive gathering of metal's elite, from Zakk Wylde to Corey Taylor, all paying respects to a man whose playing had shaped the genre. Meanwhile, Pantera fans blamed many. They cursed Nathan Gale's mental illness. They cursed the swirling negativity from the Pantera feud. They cursed the lax security at Alrosa Villa, or even singled out Phil Anselmo for fueling hostility. Police found no conclusive link between Anselmo's remarks and Gale's actions, but the timing was suspicious. Some fans insisted the negative vibe surrounding Dimebag for months might have contributed to Gale's twisted motive. We'll never know. What's certain is that a brilliant musician was extinguished mid-performance, leaving behind heartbreak and a hole in metal that never fully healed. Vinnie Paul never recovered from losing his brother. Their father, Jerry Abbott, also reeled from the unimaginable. The metal scene spontaneously launched tribute shows. People painted murals of Dimebag wearing a cowboy hat, brandishing a Dean from Hell guitar. Dean guitars re-released signature models, fulfilling the memory of that iconic shape. Even Rita Haney, Dime's longtime partner since the mid-'80s, found herself lost. She retreated from public life, only occasionally emerging to champion Dimebag tributes or sign off on reissues. Phil Anselmo expressed deep remorse, publicly weeping about the loss. Though he and Vinnie never reconciled, the tragedy was irreparable. In the years since, Dimebag's legend has grown. Guitar World repeatedly ranks him among the top metal guitarists of all time. New generations discover Pantera tracks like Cowboys from Hell or Walk, hearing that staccato, squealing attack that Dimebag perfected. They read about his over-the-top sense of humor. He'd do pranks like showing up at your door in bizarre costumes or draw comedic cartoons on your gear. They learn about his generosity, how he'd buy guitars for up-and-coming players or jam with fans backstage. Indeed, behind that ferocious on-stage persona was a big-hearted Texan who just wanted to make heavy music and share some laughs. He was an everyman who also happened to be a monstrous talent. People still recall how he gave ridiculous nicknames to everyone. He might call you Drunk Bob or Weed Man Willie. It was part of the comedic carnival that surrounded him. And the reason his death stings so deeply is that everyone recognized a fundamental warmth in Dimebag's presence. Some fans find the date of his murder to be chilling. December 8th, the same date John Lennon was killed in 1980. That parallel underscores how no musician is truly safe from the darkest corners of fandom. And for heavy metal, it was a wake-up call. In an era where stage invasions were typically shrugged off, now the industry realized the danger if security was inadequate. Some clubs and tours introduced stricter checks. The memory of that night in Columbus haunted everyone who was there or read about it. People remain outraged that an off-duty policeman had to be the one to end the shooter's rampage. Even the best measures might not have prevented it. But the question lingers. How could we have lost Dimebag, of all people, to violence from a so-called fan? Dimebag's story is that of a wide-eyed, mirror-posing kid from Texas who soared to the apex of metal's pantheon. He overcame the glam metal false start, redefined groove metal with unstoppable riffs, stuck by his brother through every band meltdown, launched a new venture in Damageplan, only to be gunned down on stage, a betrayal of everything he stood for. Yet in the aftermath, the tributes shone. The neon signs on rock clubs worldwide displayed messages like R.I.P. Dime or Getcha Pull, referencing a favorite Dimebag phrase. Kiss co-founder Gene Simmons personally arranged a custom casket for him, a Kiss casket, letting him rest in the brand he'd loved as a child. Eddie Van Halen placing the Bumblebee guitar in the coffin was the ultimate guitarist's eulogy. No greater endorsement from one legend to another. In the years that followed, Vinnie Paul formed the band Hell Yeah, channeling his grief into new music. But the shadow of Dimebag always loomed. At every Hell Yeah show, fans wore Dimebag Forever t-shirts, throwing the sign of the horns. People still evoke his name in conversation about greatest metal guitarists, his style a staple of best-of lists. He influenced countless musicians who incorporate dime squeals or gritty groove-laden breakdowns. Meanwhile, Pantera's legacy remains complicated by the personal riffs that prevented a true reunion while all members were alive. Some partial Pantera tribute tours emerge in the 2000s and 20s, but it's never the same without Dimebag. The comedic spark and the unstoppable synergy of the Abbott brothers can't be replaced. That synergy died that December night in 2004. Today, if you mention Dimebag Darrell among metal enthusiasts, the typical reaction is reverence. People recall how approachable he was, how he'd sign your guitar with a grin, or how he'd toss you a beer from behind the stage. They talk about the pink goatee or the flamboyant camouflage shorts, the flamboyant Dean ML guitars with swirling paint jobs, the squealing pinch harmonics that blared from the speakers. They mention how he revolutionized the concept of a heavy, punishing riff that still grooves. Then they lament that he's gone. Some say he was the last true guitar hero in the sense that he united fans across subgenres, thrash, groove, even hardcore. He had that southern warmth that made him an ambassador of metal. In the end, Dimebag's final moments underscore the fragility of artistry. One minute he was ripping a scorching riff on stage, delighting fans with the meltdown of a roaring guitar line. The next minute, a bullet ended everything. If anything, it's a chilling reminder that the musician's vulnerability is real, that even the biggest stage presence can't hold back evil. For Dimebag Darrell, life was short but supercharged. From that first Les Paul copy in front of the bedroom mirror to the top of the charts with Pantera. He gave the world punishingly heavy riffs and an electric positivity that cut through metal's darkness. It's a legacy overshadowed by heartbreak, but also illuminated by a rebellious grin, a shot of whiskey, and an unstoppable devotion to the cause of loud, unapologetic music. He may be gone, but the squeal of a Dimebag pinch harmonic, echoing from a battered Dean from hell, refuses to die. It persists in every corner of the metal world, singing the name of a man whose fate was both triumphant and tragic, forever known as the unstoppable guitarist who lost his life doing what he loved most, shredding on stage for his fans.